When we think of World War II, we often focus on the infamous Nazi leaders. But what about their wives? What happened to the women married to some of history's greatest criminals after the war ended? Ilse Hess, wife of Hitler's deputy Rudolf Hess, remained a devoted Nazi until her death. After her husband was imprisoned for life, she raised their son alone and even helped a group that aided former SS members. Margarete Himmler, a nurse married to SS leader Heinrich Himmler, claimed ignorance of her husband's horrific crimes. A court classified her as a beneficiary of the regime, and she lived under an alias after serving a short sentence. Lena Heydrich, wife of the ruthless Reinhard Heydrich, not only supported Nazism but also allegedly abused forced laborers on her estate. She was cleared after the war and controversially won a pension from the West German government. These women, once at the pinnacle of power, faced vastly different fates, leaving behind complicated legacies tied to a dark chapter in history. When the Second World War ended and the world reeled from the horrors of the Nazi regime, the top leaders faced justice at Nuremberg. But what happened to the women who stood by their sides, the wives of history's most infamous criminals? Did they share in the guilt, or did they fade into obscurity? Today, we're exploring the forgotten post-war lives of 4 Nazi wives, uncovering their fates after the fall of the Third Reich. First, let's look at Ilse Hess, the wife of Hitler's deputy, Rudolf Hess. Her life was defined by an unshakable devotion to National Socialism and her husband. Ilse joined the Nazi Party early on in 1921 and was instrumental in introducing Rudolf to Hitler's inner circle. Hitler even encouraged their marriage in 1927 and became the godfather to their son, Wolf. Throughout the war, Ilse remained a staunch supporter. When Rudolf made his bizarre solo flight to Scotland in a failed peace mission, she defended his actions, and her loyalty to the party never wavered. After the war, with Rudolf sentenced to life in prison, Ilse's world was turned upside down. She was arrested along with other high-ranking Nazi wives and sent to an internment camp in Augsburg. Upon her release, she moved to the Allgäu region and opened a small boarding house to support herself and her son. But her ideology never changed. Ilse remained a committed Nazi until her death in 1995. She was involved with Stille Hilfe, a clandestine organization that helped former SS members escape justice. She even published a controversial book in 1952 and spent her final years campaigning for Rudolf's release from Spandau prison. Her legacy is one of unrepentant loyalty to a monstrous cause. Next, we have Margarete Himmler, wife of the dreaded Reichsführer SS, Heinrich Himmler. In a strange twist of irony, Margarete began her career as a nurse, dedicated to saving lives during World War I. She even ran her own private nursing clinic. She met Heinrich in 1927, and they married a year later. His devoutly Catholic family wasn't thrilled. She was older, divorced, and Protestant. But they eventually accepted her. Their daughter Gudrun was born in 1929. Margarete wasn't just a bystander. She joined the Nazi Party in 1928 and often hosted gatherings for the wives of other SS leaders, though she was reportedly very unpopular. During the war, she supervised Red Cross hospitals and traveled through German-occupied territories. Her diary from a trip to Poland in 1940 is chilling. She wrote dehumanizing comments about the Jewish population and praised the German occupation. Her marriage, however, was falling apart. In 1941, she discovered Heinrich was having an affair with his secretary, with whom he had 2 children. After the war, Margarete was interrogated extensively. She claimed she knew nothing of her husband's crimes and pleaded for exoneration. But in 1953, a denazification court classified her as a beneficiary of the regime. She was sentenced to 30 days of penal work and lost her pension and voting rights. After serving her time, she tried to escape her past by living under the name Margarete Boden until her death in 1967. Now for Lena Heydrich, wife of Reinhard Heydrich, one of the main architects of the Holocaust. Lena was drawn to Nazism through her brother and joined the party after being captivated by one of Hitler's speeches. She met Reinhard Heydrich, then a naval officer, at a dance in 1930. Their engagement, however, led to his downfall. Heydrich was dismissed from the Navy for breaking a promise of engagement to another woman. Jobless, it was Lena who suggested he apply to the newly formed SS. Himmler was impressed by his ideas for an intelligence service, and the notorious SD was born. As a reward for her husband's service, Hitler gifted Lena a large estate in Bohemia. There, she used prisoners for forced labor and was accused of physically abusing them. She and her children lived a life of luxury on the estate until they had to flee the advancing Soviet army in April 1945. After the war, Lena somehow managed to be cleared by a denazification court. She even successfully sued the West German government in the 1950s and was granted a state pension, an incredibly controversial decision given her husband's role in the Holocaust. Although sentenced to life in prison in absentia by Czechoslovakia, she never faced justice. In 1965, she married a Finnish director, seemingly to change her infamous surname. She ran a restaurant out of her husband's old summer home until it burned down, and wrote a memoir defending him before she died in 1985. Finally, we come to Emmy Göring, wife of the powerful Luftwaffe commander Hermann Göring. An established actress before her marriage in 1935, Emmy was given Nazi Party membership as a Christmas gift in 1938. She acted as Hitler's official hostess for state functions, styling herself as the First Lady of the Third Reich. This created a bitter rivalry with Hitler's actual partner, Eva Braun. Emmy openly disdained Eva, which led to Hitler banning her from his Bavarian residence. During the war, Emmy lived a life of unimaginable luxury. Her husband plundered art and wealth from Jewish families and others deemed enemies of the state, amassing a collection of mansions, castles, and estates across Europe. When their daughter Edda was born, Hermann Göring reportedly ordered 500 planes to fly over Berlin in celebration. After the war, a German court convicted Emmy of being a Nazi. She was sentenced to 1 year in prison, had 30% of her property confiscated, and was banned from the stage for 5 years. After her release, she lived a much more modest life in a small Munich apartment. She published an autobiography and passed away in 1973 at the age of 80. The stories of these 4 women reveal a complex and often disturbing picture, from unrepentant ideologues to those who claimed ignorance. Their lives after the war were as varied as they were controversial. They force us to ask difficult questions about complicity, responsibility, and the long shadows cast by history's darkest chapter. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story interesting, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into history.